What's going on, my phenomenon? Super Saiyan Phenom here, bringing you part 17 of Avengers on PS5. Hopefully you've been enjoying watching me play it so far. If you have, as always, like, comment, subscribe. Without further ado, let's get back to it.
Bicycle. Bicycle.
Varför varför? If I lie to me like this, another time like that. Say that man to me like this tonight. Thank you for this.
If I like to me like say like this, another like that. If I like to say unto me like this tonight. Thank you for this. Jesus. Look at this shit, man.
time. Apparently, Shitstain is back in the wrestling business. I got an email from Jeff from Ogden, Utah, who says Shitstain is now producing a show here in Utah. I hate to give it publicity, but the name of it, I've got to read this name. Devotion Championship Wrestling. He's still trying to milk the that's... Much like ice cream and battery acid go together, so do religion and pro wrestling. And he's 15 years later, he's still trying to match religion with wrestling. The first show of Devotion Championship Wrestling, torches and rubber alligators, and they had a 12-year-old referee. Please shout out to the world that this sucks. It's shouted, Jeff from Ogden, Utah, and boy...
Avengers, we've discovered the way server facility.
That's the way I'd expect it to end up. It may have started and ended at the same time. Shitstain's like my uncle, the proctologist. He started at the bottom and stayed there.
You know, it's funny, for the first time in a while, we got a couple emails about
control of AIM's
so this kind of opens that door. Let me ask you one.
I didn't mean to open a fucking door. I just meant to make fun of the tiki torches. But go ahead.
This was sent in by Bedar in Dubai. Hello, Mr. Kim. Over the last few years or so, I've seen a lot of your YouTube videos and have become a fan. Your rants are highly entertaining, and you cutting promos on these indie wrestlers and promotion is gold. Promotions, I guess. However, I am a fan of Vince Russo as well.
Oh boy.
It blows my mind.
So you're the one then.
Indubitably. It blows my mind on the number of similarities and opinions you guys share and still don't seem to get along.
What?
A fan suggested him...
Wait a minute. You've known me for a long time. We've exchanged many stories. I've always talked about this guy as being... It's almost a rib that anything that comes out of his mouth is something that I vehemently disagree with, and we couldn't be more different if it was a rib and it's on purpose. And he's finding similarities.
Speak to the similarities, I haven't been paying attention, but a fan suggested him, asked him, I guess, about a Russo Cornet podcast, which he said he'd love to do, and that is the big money. As a fan of both people, I'd like you guys to maybe make peace someday. What are your thoughts on possibly doing a podcast with Vince Russo?
Well, I'm sure he'd like to do it because that way somebody would actually hear him. But I'd have to hear him. And yes, it would be money. And they haven't printed that much money yet. As I've mentioned to everyone over the last 10 or 15 years that has offered me, in some respect, the opportunity to work with him, alongside him, do a shoot interview. Remember, Rob Feinstein said, I'll pay you guys more. This was 7-8 years ago. I'll pay you guys more than I've ever paid anybody for a shoot interview. Just to have you two in a room, we'll get a uniformed police officer to sit in between you and just say whatever you want to say.
Network is equipped with a
I said, I'll tell you what. I said, I'll save you some money.
I need access to
I said, I'll do it for free if you won't have the cop there. It'll be short but interesting. And he didn't want to do that.
AIM will attempt to initiate a shutdown.
Whether it be Sean Oliver, kayfabe commentaries, whether it be Rob Feinstein, whether I can't remember. At last total, I think it was about 40 grand in accumulative work. That every time somebody would ask me, I would let them say, okay, what are you going to pay me? What are you going to pay us? Okay, good. Now call Dick Lick and tell him how much money I just cost him by turning this down. Because I would not, in any way, shape, or form, enable him to make one more single penny off of the wrestling industry or any of the wrestling fans if it cost me $1,000 to prevent it. So, what do you think the answer to the question is?
I know what the answer is.
Well, there you go.
One last thing on the topic of this gentleman, and I use that term loosely.
Who, the guy from Dubai?
The man you refer to as Shitstain.
The gentleman.
I haven't seen this, but I've been told, I have an email here somewhere, but I haven't been able to find it. I've been looking last minute. That apparently in advance of the Vice Dark Side of the the Ring episode covering the Brawl for All, he is saying that it wasn't really him, that it was Vince McMahon who wanted to do this.
So he takes the credit for everything else ever done, including the invention of air and water and shit. But he don't want none of that. So Vince McMahon just thought of one day, well, hell, let's just let the guys fight for a shoot. Yeah. When you take credit for everything, you also have to be ready to take blame for everything, and especially, you know, like my Aunt Older used to say, everything you do gets blamed right on you. Well, congratulations, shit-stained, and that will be another topic of the Dark Side of the Ring this season, and we'll get to see exactly how stupid and ignorant and irresponsible Vince Russo's creativity, I can't say that word, related to without throwing up in my mouth, his creativity was in that time and what everybody thought of it.
I've reached AIM security network.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the very first breaking news update here at tinyurl.com/cornyyoutube. You know, one of the things we have been talking about doing here on the arcade...
Have you heard about the other piece of news?
Excellent
This
work,
is
Avengers.
sad news
I
for
was able to
anybody
obtain
who
several terabytes of
wants
vital AIM
legitimacy
data. It will take me
to
some
the
time to analyze, but it
WWE
should
Hall of
prove a
Fame,
boon
who
for the
wants it to
resistance.
really truly represent all the greats in wrestling. A blow was struck just this past week when it was announced, ladies and gentlemen, by one Vincent Russo, that if nominated, he will not run. If elected, he will not serve in the WWE Hall of Fame. No, he would not accept that invitation. He does not need validation for his work by Vince McMahon. He just needs to be validated by his wife and his kids and his family and his close personal friends. And if they ain't gonna goddamn vote for him to be in the WWE Hall of Fame, then he's not gonna take it. Can you believe it? In related news, ladies and gentlemen, I have also gone on record as saying I will not accept
AIM
an induction
continues
into
to
the Rock and
aggressively
Roll Hall of
expand around
Fame,
the globe.
the National Football League
The
Hall of
Avengers need
Fame,
to do
the
everything in their power
UFC
to
Hall of
disrupt
Fame,
their operations.
or any
I will
other
monitor your
Hall of
progress and
Fame
assist you
that
as
I'm not
needed in your
qualified to
efforts.
be in. Shock and amazement. What the is he off his meds again?
So I missed this. He just randomly announced
AIM
that
has
he
an arc
will
reactor
never
close
accept... I mean,
by.
did he get an invitation
Destroy.
from anyone?
Well, no. That's the point. He in some interview he did with some person who needed somebody to talk to. I don't know. He let them know that no, I don't need that validation from Vince. If I was asked, I would not accept it. Well, good, because you're fucking safe. You are safe. You are safe at home. You're safe as in you if you were in your mother's bosom, pal. Because that invitation is not coming. And it's, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Cornette, they're not going to put you in there either. No, they're not. Not because of the fact that I don't deserve to be in, since the bar is still fairly low about the WWE Hall of Fame once you get into the mid-card and the celebrity wing, but the fact that I say too much shit, and people listen to it, and they don't want to go through that can of peas. But I've said before, if they wanted to induct me in the Midnight Express, I would accept, because I would not screw up the boys' opportunity. But that I wouldn't accept even if they asked me about the Midnight Express, because I didn't do anything Hall of Fame worthy in my mind. In the WWF, my Hall of Fame shit comes from managing the Midnight Express. But they don't even nominate. Pat Patterson was in for being a great wrestler and for being an announcer to the WWE public, WWF public, and for being a driving force behind it, but they didn't come out and say he was a fucking writer. They don't put writers in the Hall of... They don't put bat boys
That is Hall of Fame, of course.
How many bad boys are in the Hall of Fame?
I do not believe there are any bad boys in the Hall of Fame. There's some famous bad boys like MC Hammer, but none in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, well there you go. So maybe, well, I guess what he's doing is he's making a preemptive strike. Shit State is. If they ever come up with the Bat Boy equivalent of a WWE Hall of Fame slot, he's turning it down right now. He's delusional. He's delusional.
I mean, you just think it's a cry for attention or validation. He says he doesn't need the validation. He comes across...
That's where you know he needs the validation.
Yeah, that's the way it comes across.
If he would consider that in any way he had ever done anything that would qualify him to be involved in the as low as that standard is these days, to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. He's batshit fucking nuts. He's as full of shit as a Christmas turkey. Somebody needs to check on him. I wonder if he can find his way home at night these days. But anyway, desperate plea. But I guess he will, however, accept that invitation to go to the Outlaw Mud Show and join the folks in bitching and griping about me.
The CD Warehouse Hall of Fame.
The CD, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we've gone through a lot of troubles with the CD business over the last 20 years or so, but one man has single-handedly kept us all in business, and we'd like to welcome him right now. Oh, wait, what? He didn't show up? Oh, sorry. Well, we'll send this...
He didn't show up. He puts the ware in the warehouse.
Anyway, you know what I'm thinking, Brian? What I'm thinking is that Shitstain, he needs something to do. Because, you know, all this drastic, desperate grabbing for attention can wear you out. And you gotta be in good shape. So he needs something to do to keep in shape so that he can jump at every feasible employment opportunity. He can grab at every straw. He needs to be in shape from top to bottom. And I'll tell you who can do it, folks. The folks at Echelon. At EchelonFit.com. If you've been working too hard and not working out enough, you want to get in shape, but you don't have time to go to the gym, well, Echelon Fit will bring the gym home to you along with trainers, workout community, and workout equipment. When you're trying to reach your fitness goals, you need all three of these things in the equation. The fitness app provides you thousands of live and on-demand classes with free music from your favorite artists. You can work out anytime, day or night. Brian, I know you love to work out about 4:30, 4:45 in the morning. It's peaceful and quiet. You pick your class, you climb the leaderboard, you can cheer each other on and interact with the community. You can track your workouts and progress to reach your fitness goals when you want, and their certified fitness instructors are supportive, engaging, and fun. They know how to goose you and get you moving. And Echelon also offers a full range of affordable workout equipment, including stationary bikes, smart rowers, those sleek fitness screens, the infamous auto-folding treadmill that only folds up when you want to, folks. It will not crush you like a giant jaws of life. It's auto-folding. You control these things. They're all connected. You will be safe, like you were in a mother's arms. All connected with the Echelon experience. Around-the-clock classes for the family. One membership covers a family of 5. That's a good thing for you to know, Mr. Last. Your brood increases on a regular basis. And right now,
take things up
my listeners will get a special podcast offer from Echelon. For a limited time only, start your 30-day risk-free trial offer with Echelon's EX3 bike for just $1. A special risk-free offer for 30 days. Echelon's EX3 bike for only $1 for the 30 days, plus free shipping. The only way to get this special offer is by going to Echelon Fit. That's ECHELON Fit.com/drive. Even though this is the experience, they love us all. EchelonFit.com/drive. One more time, EchelonFit.com/drive. I want somebody to tweet a picture of them riding this EX3 bike, and we'll just retweet that all over the place. So make sure you're tanned and your hair is combed. But you know, a lot of the folks are tweeting the products from some of our sponsors' services that we save you money on, they're not easy to tweet a picture of. The services, but some of the goods and the merchandise, they've been tweeting the pictures of, you know, Brian, you got a picture of a sack of nuts the other day. It was from nuts.com, not that kind of sack of nuts. And we love it, and the sponsors love it when you interact with us on Twitter like that. So we'll tweet a bunch of that stuff out if you send us some pictures.
That's right.
Well, I know that's right. I didn't need you.
I just got it. Literally, as you're saying this, we just got tweeted a picture. One of the listeners here,
Of a sack of nuts?
no, we have a second. It's actually, I just went to nuts.com and they sent me peanuts in a burlap sack. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's very rustic.
He just got, from Sean McKenzie, he had just tweeted us that he got his package from Omaha Steaks, and he's just about it. And they tweeted back that they're very happy that he's happy with it. So,
See, we're making people happy.
everyone's happy.
It's free and easy. I'm telling you, since we started this whole free and easy thing,
I started it.
since I came up with it, what?
I said it.
Free and easy. You want to remember it that way, go ahead. I think you need to get on shit stage.
Let me ask you a question. What do you want? I'm gonna give you a couple of words. Tell me if you think these are words that people associate with you.
All right.
Mad.
Possibly.
Angry.
Sometimes. Well, attitude-wise, easy. All right, but you can be free and I'll be easy. Or would you rather be easy and I'll be free?
No.
I'd rather be a little loose myself.
Let me help you out.
Anyway, speaking of knowing people, I want to say this real quick. We're going to get to the Kevin Sullivan interview, but I want to thank everybody for the great response to my appearance on the Brawl for All episode of Dark Side of the Ring on Vice. As you know, Dark Side of the Ring airs every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern on Vice TV, and I have been involved already in a couple of them, and you'll probably see me popping up a time or two again. But I trended on Twitter again, and this time just for not doing anything bad. But I have apparently, from the comments, been vindicated after all these years. Now that people have seen Shitstain talk about wrestling in his natural habitat, with that voice and that face, and the whole package, people are astonished that I didn't strangle him 20 years ago. I've never seen such people are saying things about Shitstain that I've never even dreamed of saying. And I'm writing a lot of them down, so I'm going to steal them. But God, I've never seen one television program make a motherfucker so unpopular. So thank everybody for your feedback, and now you see what I was fucking dealing with. But we wanted to talk a little bit about the Dark Side of the Ring episode. Just in what they've only got the 45 minutes, and you know, they could have just showed me talking about the whole thing for 45 minutes, and it would have been as exciting visually, but you'd had a lot more of the details. But I wanted to go over a couple things that I think they left out time-wise, possibly interest-wise. The biggest problem to me, well, let's start at the start. Whose idea, not whose idea was it, but who inspired Vince Russo to come up with this idea? Because he's saying now, he's been telling for the last few years that I heard that John Bradshaw Layfield in the catering or wherever, and he was talking about how tough he was. And I said, boy, I wanted to see somebody knock him out. He says he started this whole fiasco because he wanted to see Bradshaw get fucking punched out and embarrassed. And when the guys that Jason Eisner and Evan Husty were down here were taping, they asked me, and this part was edited out. I said, I can't put it past him for a stupid reason like that. And that's why I said, can you imagine being intellectually and morally bankrupt enough to go through all this just to embarrass a fucking bully? But like a lot of Russo stories, it doesn't pan out. The timeline doesn't work. There's not a lot of evidence to support it. And it wasn't told until years after the fact. Now, the reason why I can't totally discount it is because with Russo, you never know. At that point in time, especially he'd only been in the fucking locker room for a year. He might have heard the guys fucking around with each other and bought it and thought they were serious because he was that much of a mark. But Bradshaw was him, even if he was a bully, and it seems like this story has only popped up over the last few years when stories about Bradshaw bullying people became fashionable, right? That's when Russo started telling him, wow, I can get even with that bully. But, Brian, the year was 1998. Bradshaw could not have been a bully then, even if he was a bully. He was just out of not even barely out of the new Blackjacks, for fuck's sake. He had only been in the company for 2 years. He'd come in, he'd already had a couple of gimmick changes. He was an underneath guy, not knocking his talent or whatever the fuck, but he was being used in the middle of the card, if that, with no established, real strong gimmick. And there was nobody, and plus he's in a locker room with fucking Dan Severn and Steve Blackman and Ken Shamrock. At that time, John Bradshaw Layfield was not going to be a bully to anybody. And I was around him a lot at that point. Not only did I've never had a problem with Bradshaw, but I never saw that at that time, especially because he was ribbing anybody excessively. He just didn't at the phase where he was happy to be there. So that, to me, does not make sense, but it's a good story that Vince Russo could make up if indeed he wanted to make up a story about, you know, a reason for this to make himself look like a babyface when Bradshaw started getting heat for being a bully to people. Well, I wanted to take him down myself. He just wants to, he's a fucking wagon hopper. He wants to hop on the fucking wagon and he drags his feet.
About how it was first pitched to Vince or how you first heard it.
Well, see, that's the problem is, I was off the creative team by that point, so I don't know how it was first pitched. But when I first heard about it, the impression that all of us had initially, and I'll go into more of this in a second, but a lot of, you gotta remember a lot of the boys, when you hear Bart Gunn talk or you hear any of the boys talk, most of the guys, all the guys in the tournament at that time had never been in the office, had never been part of a booking team or booking committee or bookers themselves. And they see things related to their own personal possession, which is natural. Whereas a lot of guys saw that there was some deep-seated meaning to this at the start, or that somehow there was punishment afterwards that was designed for this or whatever. I guarantee goddamn to you, and that's nothing Bruce already admitted in the show. He was sitting and watching Ian fucking Ferrara. We'd watch Jerry Springer all day and write the wrestling program. I guarantee you that one of the Vinces, probably Russo, saw some television piece somehow on mixed martial arts, ultimate fighting, or even a tough man contest, and because you know how people get a germ of an idea, and then somebody else says something, and you've seen something on TV, and whatever the fuck, and that's the way songs are written, and fucking books are written, and etc. I tried to get them to do Severn and Shamrock 3 on pay-per-view and sent copious notes on what you could do with Dan Severn, you couldn't do with Dan Severn, etc. But that had never manifested itself. But then suddenly we hear, well, we're going to have a brawl for all. And Bruce, because he's always the explainer, as we said on the drive-thru this last week, he'll explain it exactly like Vince wants it explained. I said, you got to be out of your fucking mind. What do they do? Oh, no, it's beat great, corny. Vince Russo had the barest idea that there was something going on called Ultimate Fighting. I don't even know whether they were calling it mixed martial arts yet. This was still before Dana White had bought the company, when they'd been kicked off pay-per-view, but they'd done those massive pay-per-view buys, and there was an underground buzz about it. If he was keeping up with ECW, then he probably knew something about this. But because Russo didn't know anything about the rules of pro wrestling to begin with, he definitely didn't know anything about mixed martial arts fighting or what the UFC was legitimately doing. And I'm sure when he pitched it to Vince McMahon Vince always like, oh yeah, they'll really be
We've
laying the
identified
leather
the
in there,
main
pal.
facility
He
that
was
is
a
vulnerable
boxing
to
guy.
attack.
If he's thinking of real
Though there are
fighting,
still security
he's thinking of
synthroids to
boxing
contend with,
because he's been a
we
pay-per-view
expect...
promoter, and at the time, that's what ruled pay-per-view was boxing. And he probably the tough man contest. That probably appealed to Vince's macho fucking whatever he's got
For the
going on.
location
Where,
on your
yeah,
heart.
yeah, we'll put gloves on them. They have the big gloves on because that they use the big gloves. Nobody will get hurt, but boy, they'll fucking swing and blah blah blah. Basically, you had two Vinces together that neither one of them knew anything about the burgeoning mixed martial arts scene, Ultimate Fighting Championship, what it was really about, doing some kind of weird offshoot with all of the supposed tough guys that they had on the roster, and all those guys were tough in their normal elements. But besides the fact that neither one of them, I mean, you know, Shane, as you'll recall, before Dana White bought the UFC, Shane wanted Vince to buy it, and got mad when he didn't buy it, from what I heard. And that may have led to Shane leaving and going, didn't he invest in a Oriental mixed martial arts company at some point in time or whatever?
I'm not sure, but, you know, I used to work with Bob Meyerowitz, and he's the founder and creator of the UFC, or, well, founder and first owner of UFC with SEG, Semaphore Entertainment Group, and he told me a story once that he was in New York at a restaurant, and this was after Shane had wanted to buy it, and that he sees Vince, and he knows Vince. I mean, they're both pay-per-view big shots.
Yeah.
And he sees Vince with some guy, and he goes, hey, Vince, how are you? And Vince goes, Bob, I want you to meet my son-in-law, Triple H. And Bob thought he was joking. He's like, there's no way Vince would marry his daughter off to some wrestler.
Oh, my God.
And he said, I remember looking at him and thinking, he's joking. And then I realized he wasn't joking.
Well, anyway, so they've got the barest idea of how something like this will work. And they're going to put these guys in it, and I immediately raised all the red flags, which nobody listened to anyway. What the fuck? Number one, if it's supposedly a shoot, then that makes everything else we're doing a fucking work. It exposes the wrestling business. Number two, once I heard the fucking rules, you've got all-American wrestlers who are going to have to compete with fucking boxing gloves on. You've got guys that have fought in tough man contests, but fucking takedowns are legal. There have never been rules, and this is something I stressed with the Dark Side guys, but it was too inside baseball. They cut it out. Just the whole idea that the rules were neither fish nor fowl. There had never been competitive fights staged under these rules. The rules weren't even finalized until they were still tinkering with them 2 or 3 weeks in. It would show everybody at their worst because the wrestlers can obviously take the boxers if they can take them to, but you couldn't submit anybody because there was no submissions, and you're wearing boxing gloves. So you take them down, you have to let them back up. It benefit the rules, and then I said you're putting a lot of money on the line for these guys, so they're going to really fight, and then you're going to have ill will. And I said they're not trained for competition. So even if they're in wrestling shape, they may not be in competition shape. Well, that proved to be a fucking prophetic statement when everybody got hurt. And I hated the thing from the fucking start. But another rumor or, long-standing fucking belief has come about that JR said, okay, this will be Doc's... That JR was somehow behind it because he either wanted Dr. Death to win it or was whatever the fucker was trying to get him to win it. JR heard the idea, and instead of me, because we're two different personalities, I just mentioned everything that was fucking wrong with it, and it was stupid because Vince Russo was behind it, and it made no sense. JR, being more level-headed than I am, said, all right, if we're going to do this fucking thing, he didn't like it any better than I did, but how can it work? How can it serve us somehow? How can we do some good with it? Dr. Death had just been signed. And I don't care if any of the fans think, oh, well, why the fuck would they think that Dr. Death was going to win it just automatically unless the fix was in? No. If you were in the wrestling business at that period of time, and you'd been in the business for any length of time, and somebody said Dr. Death Steve Williams is going to be in a shoot fight, there was no doubt who was going to fucking win it. It was going to be Dr. Death. And all things being equal without the screwy rules and just the stupidity, yes, Doc would have won it. But the idea that JR was then trying to make it happen that way was ridiculous because the whole tournament was fucked up. The bracketing was never consistent. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing. Smart Severn won his opening round match because all he did was just take Godfather down over and over. Because Godfather had no defense for a UFC Hall of Famer taking him down. But once he took him down, he couldn't fucking do anything with him because you had to let him back up, and he's wearing gloves. And I heard at the time, and I never had any reason to doubt it, Dan later on has said that he was told to fucking pull out, but Dan Severn was a UFC Hall of Famer and was the most decorated amateur and professional athlete in this fucking competition. Decorated in amateur wrestling, AAU, and Olympic-style wrestling, everything. And had that UFC record. His first fight in, I remember him telling me after his first fight that any fucking putz could win this thing. Because the way the scoring was, the point system was, the fucking rules of the whole thing. And he pulled out to salvage his reputation. And then, you know, he said that they told him to pull out. I can't say whether they did or not, but it was a good decision.
Wasn't Ken Shamrock asked to be in and he refused?
Yes!
Train? Because he actually knew that you need to train to do something like this. You can't just go into it willy-nilly.
Well, I think that was his excuse because he was like, wait a minute, once again, I'm a fucking real professional with a real goddamn reputation, and yes, people, if I'm doing worked pro wrestling, that's one thing, but if I'm losing a fight to a fucking guy who's never had a professional fight before for real because of this stupid fucked up rule system they've got, that could have done damage to him. And so either way, he didn't want to do it because it was stupid. So then poor Bart feels like that he was punished because Doc didn't win it. And everybody knows the story. They didn't go into it specifically there if you didn't already kind of know it to begin with. But Doc came out. Nobody was going to knock Doc out, you know. Bart hit like a fucking brick, right? But if Doc was mobile and hostile and could take people down or do whatever the fuck, but Doc comes out and fucking tears his goddamn hamstring, that goofy bump through the ropes did, I can't remember whether that was it or whether he tore it trying to fucking lean into it afterwards. But anyway, he's a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, and he just stood right in front of that fucking shot. And Dr. Death, after four times All-American in wrestling, a pro for 20 fucking years, there are 15 years at that point, a fucking four-time All-American football player, he'd never fought with gloves on in his life. So it was just all goofy. And anyway, Bart believes that he was punished, but the thing was, he wasn't punished because the only plan to push anybody coming out of this thing, besides Vince Russo saying, well, whoever wins will be a big star, was, okay, this could get Doc ready to run with Steve Austin, because that's obviously why Dr. Death Steve Williams was there. To have a run with Steve Austin, where and Steve Austin would have loved to fucking work with Dr. Death, and Dr. Death could have been a heel that, as hot as Austin was at that time, that the people believed could fucking break Austin into pieces, and you would have had some pay-per-view matchups there, and they were two straight-ahead guys that would have probably done great working with each other. But Bart Gunn had been presented for 5 years as a middle card or underneath guy, first as a member of the team, and even the Smoking Guns were more over than Bart Gunn was as a single at that time, not taking anything away from his talent, but because the way he had been presented. He wasn't just going to suddenly come in, do this tournament, win matches that were getting booed out of the building because it wasn't wrestling and the fans didn't want to see it, knock these guys out, and it's still the same Bart Gunn. And he's knocked out other guys that were in the middle of the card. Whether it was a shoot or a work, didn't make any fucking difference. He was still beating other guys that were in the middle of the card, or they wouldn't have been in that tournament to begin with. The only guy that was headed to the top was Dr. Death, and he was in it because he never backed down from a fight. He'd never lost a fucking fight, and he figured, okay, this will get me ready for a title shot. the winner was not automatically going to work with Steve Austin. If Dr. Death won the thing, he was going to work with Steve Austin, but do you think if Godfather won, he was going to work with Steve Austin? No. So whatever they told Bart, and I can believe Bruce told him anything, it wasn't going to happen that way. They had no plan for how to push Bart Gunn, because they didn't think Bart Gunn was going to win, but there wasn't really any way to push Bart Gunn otherwise than to send him away for 6 months to a year. Different fucking look. Because they've been using Bart Gunn. There was nothing different about him, except he knocked out a bunch of other guys in the middle of the card, and he knocked out Dr. Death, who had never been in the WWE before, and was just in the process of starting to get over. And the injury fucking finished that off. So there was no conspiracy to penalize Bart.
I got up to the bathroom, couldn't get back to sleep.
What are you going to do with him afterwards? He did what was best for him. He went to Japan with a new name and a whole new look and a new etc. and he got over.
How that goes.
And did, fairly well in Japan for, several years after that. But there was no punishment or whatever the fuck for doing that. It just, that's the way that it worked out. And
I dropped my damn phone in the toilet. Huh? Morning. It works. Didn't break or nothing. I got it right out. It was wet. It was in there probably about a second. Probably still works though. It probably wasn't in there long enough to get water to. Yeah. But it's still working. What's those scissors? Fire and desire. The woman that sung that song with him is a white woman. The woman that sung Fire and Desire with Rick James. You never heard Fire and Desire? Yeah, you have. Oh, I'm going to throw this one away. Well, maybe not. You've heard Fire and Desire. It's that song that starts up, it goes like, love them and leave them. That's what I used to do. Use and abuse them. And then I laid eyes on you. It was pain before pleasure. You've heard that song. Everybody has. Right? Don't sound like that. No. But you've heard it. Christina Maria's like that. She's what we in the music, we people in the music know called blue-eyed soul. Blue-eyed soul was when a white person had soul. We in the music industry? I said industry, I said in the music. You not close the freezer? I said in the music, no. But yeah, because we know some white folks can sing. She's one of them. Adele one of them. was watching that video of it last night. Woo! it was, he goes, I remember you like that good liquor, so I got you this. 18 years, single malt scotch. James Buchanan, $105. Looked up online last night. You can get it. $105 on that. In Lexington, they got it on sale for $90. Still, top dollar, high price stuff. Which is what I like, but $105 bottle of liquor. Is that a real glass? That thing don't be good. Is it real glass and a real cork? I really would love to taste it. I'm gonna take it back. I give $105 back for it. I'm gonna do it. But I still got a glass or two left out of my original bottle I bought when I first came back. I'm just sitting on here. So, you gotta take it back too. Would you gotta take it back? Well, it's awesome. You gotta have it open. If I tell who was in there and who bought it, they'll recognize it. Texted Mikey last night after I dropped Jeffrey back off at Green. But when I stopped at Shell to get some gas and stuff, that's when I checked my bank account and realized that GameStop was losing money in it. So I went ahead and filled up the tank and actually they pulled $200 out on me and pulled $100 out. They pulled 200. And also I was less money put it back in. I'm sorry, account of people. So, anyway, I texted Mikey while I was at Shell and told him to make sure he kept an eye on Jeff it didn't smell like liquor. It smelled like beer, but. No. Oh man, look at this. The bottle's been cut, or the box has been cut. Probably when they. Yeah, when they opened up the box. Look, you know, it's done with the box cutter. Yeah. If they won't take it back, I'll keep it. Be nice to have a Christmas drink, I guess. Bring something really, really smooth. Full body taste. You know what single malt scotch is, don't you? It's where the wheat and barley and stuff they used to make it. Where it's only been malted once. The more you malt it, like the more you malt it, the weaker it gets. It messes with the taste and everything. The more you malt it. That is. Yeah, when I was getting drunk, I mean, if you're old, then you just go buy a $5 bottle of a pint of EJ for $5. They're a little cheaper. But if you like to actually taste it and see what it's like, then you get that. Well, I like to. But it's cold out there now, though, ain't it? It's not. Oh. That must be tonight, then it's going to be.
Tomorrow night after that front comes through.
Okay, because I saw the weather earlier. I can't remember which day it was for, but it said it was going to be like 63 during the day, and then it was supposed to go down to 23 at night. Well, you have a good day. Don't go to work like that.
Won't be running cholesterol all day, I already know.
Oh. Well, I like my job. Well, it helps to have a job you like to do.
I'd like one phone, we had to go once a week too.
Well.
All right.
Bye. Be careful.
All right.
Have a good day, Mom. go get it, Lord. Go get it. Go get it. If I like to me like this, would it be like that? If I like to be like this and that, then begin tonight. Information. Mm-hmm. If I like to say like unto me like this, tonight.
My daughter, a new threat comes to our shores, and I must call you home. Restore what has been broken. Unite old enemies. Forge new bonds. You are a hero, but you can be more. You can be a leader. You are Wonder Woman.
No. Mm. Oh.
Well, speaking of which, here's another Vince question, Jim. This one was sent to cornydrivethrough@gmail.com from Charlie in Starkville, Mississippi.
Okay, wait a minute. Hold on.
Excuse
There's
me.
the official air raid warning. How long has it been? We made it all of last week. I'm wondering if it was a 2-week run without Charlie from Starkville. And I understand his brother's on the FBI's most wanted list.
Well, here's his question. Hi, Jim. Dustin Rhodes recently said Vince McMahon didn't think much of a potential Cody versus Dustin match at WrestleMania. Dustin said, quote, Vince would always tell me, this match is not good enough for WrestleMania.
Oh, God.
That pissed me off. That pissed me off bad.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Vince thinking Cody versus Dustin wasn't good enough for WrestleMania?
Well, especially after we saw it, and it ended up being probably the best classic professional wrestling match that's yet been presented in AEW. Vince was wrong. If I can see him saying it, I would have, if I was Vince, I just shuddered as I thought that. He could have been a little nicer. He could have said, Dustin, it's so hard to pull off brother versus brother. I don't know that people would believe it. And then, not only that, but how do you come back from it? You know, just told Dustin he didn't want to do brother versus brother. To say the match would not be good enough for WrestleMania, especially considering some of the matches that we've seen on WrestleMania. I know this had to be, 7-8 years ago probably that he said that, or somewhere in that time frame, but still, Dustin and Cody on it was the was that the first AEW pay-per-view, or was that the little crowdfunding thing that they did that
No.
started the ball rolling?
No, because that one was Cody with the NWA title. I think this was the second one. This was the first All Out, Double or Nothing, I think.
Whatever it was. Yes, they've had more dramatic athletic matches, and yes, they've had a different variety now, but still, for classic old-fashioned professional wrestling, that's the best match that AEW has presented. So it was way better than a lot of matches that have been at WrestleMania. Now, would it have drawn in that environment, and would they have had the freedom to have that match? Probably not. So it was better they did it where they did it, especially if Vince didn't believe in it. But that was a kind of a prickish thing to say.
There were a couple of points I felt that the fans were ready for it, whether it was Cody versus Goldust or Stardust versus Goldust. They were ready for it, and I think the highlights of Cody's career in WWE, that brief period of time they let him have Dusty, and Dusty was great, and then he went off script against Stephanie, and they never let Dusty say another word on TV ever again. But that was the first time Cody was really interesting. And then they had been kind of teasing Cody versus Dustin and never did anything with it. And like you said, I'm not the biggest Cody fan. I certainly wasn't a big Stardust fan, but it would have been a lot more interesting than some of the other crap they have on there. And it ended up being a great match for AEW.
Well, I guess actually since they gave it the attention they gave it, it wouldn't even have been that it wouldn't have drawn in that environment. It just, they wouldn't have been able to have as good a match as they had in that environment, because they wouldn't have been allowed to.
Are you surprised that Vince, if we are to believe this quote, that Vince was so blunt with Dustin?
No. Vince can blurt out some bluntness. Sometimes when you don't expect it to be coming, if he's just in the right mood, and he may have gotten up on the wrong side of the garage door opener that morning or something.
Well, you know, Jim, some might say that perhaps Jim needs help with a transition. Some might say, Jim, that perhaps...
I'll go ahead and say it, Jim. See, I just said it.
Jim, some might say, I would suspect, if we could ever get through this, there are some that might say Vince McMahon could use a good night's sleep.
You know, a lot of people would say that because he hasn't slept since 1984. His sleep is the enemy, according to Vince McMahon. Well, I got news for you, Vince. Sleep is my friend.
This was sent to cornydrivethrough@gmail.com. What an episode this week. From Andrew.
That's what a lot of people are saying.
This one's from Andrew. I've been following the show for the past year and love the content. You guys are very entertaining and two very great wrestling minds. Well, thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
Jim, your Dark Side of the Ring appearances are awesome. That being
Does
said...
this guy want money?
That being said...
Uh-oh.
I wanted to drop in with a question. Who should take the AEW World title off Hangman Page? Should it be one of the big veteran names like Danielson or Punk? Or some young guys like MJF?
Who? Possibly some creditor should repossess it. That would go along with the story that he's been drunk and a failure, and now that he's just got his life back together and won the title, his past catches up with him, he owes everybody money, and some creditor comes and repossesses the world title belt until he pays some bill off, and then we end up with some accountant from Cleveland wearing the AEW world title. The fans will be in a frenzy. He'll be the hottest heel in the company. Or we could just not do any of that. I mean, I'm sure they've got... Tony Khan has already said that the title succession has gone exactly the way he envisioned it, for good or bad. It's exactly the way he envisioned it. So, since most of the things that he thinks of don't have a rhyme or reason, I can't figure out who he's got standing next in line. I've got to think, Punk is a guy that doesn't need the belt, But I've got to think that Danielson eventually could be an incredible heel champion. That could
Eventually?
What now?
Eventually?
Well, yes, whenever he don't need to beat Page for it next week, or elsewise Page is kind of flattered in 4 o'clock. But at some point, to manipulate the thing into his hands, he could work with everybody on the roster. He can talk. He's obviously got a ton of heat pretty much instantly over the last few weeks, so you could go in any direction from him, and it wouldn't be, detrimental to anybody's career to lose to Bryan Danielson. What do you think there, smarty pants?
I think I would put the belt on Danielson as soon as you can. Not rush it or anything, but, he's going to wrestle Page pretty soon. If not, they're the rematch.
Well, when I said eventually, I wasn't talking about when he's goddamn old and gray and got a beard down to his crotch. I was just talking about not next week, because you'd make Page look like a spare prick at the wedding.
From what we've seen of heel Danielson the last few weeks, see, my thing is now I don't want to see him beat. I want to see him get a long title reign where he's this guy just kicking the shit out of people. Because then it means something when CM Punk, who doesn't need the belt, says, you know what, I want the belt because this guy's doing this and I know him. I've known him a long time. I was best in the world too. And there you got something people are interested in. I think eventually you can put it back on Page. I think, I thought a while back it would be Page to MJF at some point. Because I think MJF, it may be too early now, but I think he's on that future trajectory, I would think.
If MJF wins it, I'd like to see him beat someone with a little bit bigger name and a longer back history than Adam Page. I would like to see him take it off of a Danielson or a Punk.
But I think Danielson, neither guy needs the belt, Punk or Danielson, but Danielson with the belt makes a lot of sense. And the big match, whenever down the road, Punk versus Danielson for the belt, we said a while back that was the biggest match they could have before either guy was there. I still think that.
I think you're right. As far as selling tickets or pay-per-views or whatever the metric is, Punk and Danielson with something important on the line and a sufficient build would be the biggest thing they could do. Or they could bring Cody back into the title picture, renege on the stipulation, have him beat Page and turn around and drop it to Danielson on a fucking contract cash-in in about 10 seconds. And then the people could boo Cody out of the building.
What do you think about the idea of Cody going back on the stipulation? Which, the more you think about it, why even do the stipulation at the beginning if you weren't going to go back on it eventually?
Because he found, since apparently Tony Khan had the title succession already in his mind, because he said just, last week or whenever, that it's gone the way that he originally envisioned. Cody was looking at it, well, what about me? You left me out. Wait a minute, I've got an idea. I can't win it, so I'll figure out a way that I don't get to challenge for it. And then nobody will ever know as to whether I could be the champion or not, blah, blah, blah. I think that's what's happened here. Early on, why would the guy lose a match that is a called finish to indicate that he could never wrestle for the championship again unless he knew he wasn't going to get it to begin with, and that means he's going to be doing a lot of fucking jobs. Your thoughts? Is there any other reason to do that stipulation that early in the company, unless you're like, I'm going to get this out of the way because it's going to look bad when I'm not in the mix with Jericho and Moxley, and he didn't even know about Danielson and Punk.
Did Tony Khan say when he formulated his plan for the first 4 champions?
Before he started the company, I would assume. He said, this is the way that I envisioned it when we started out.
It couldn't have been before it could have been in his head. I was going to say, he didn't know he had Moxley yet at that point. So, I mean, was it when he started TV? Did he say, these are my first 4 champions when he started the tournament? What was it?
You'll have to ask him.
Because did Cody bow out? Did Cody bow out? It was one of those dumb Cody ideas. You know what? I'll show everyone. I'm not going to be like Triple H. I'm not going to be like Jeff Jarrett.
No.
I'm going to introduce a stipulation that makes no sense at all.
I'm more than happy to be corrected by anyone with first-hand knowledge of the situation, but I'll guarantee you, as Uncle Tommy used to say, that Cody did this stipulation because he wasn't going to be the champion imminently or anywhere in the foreseeable future.
A popular topic the last few days has been about a story that was broken by Mike Johnson at PWInsiderElite.com. I'll read you the story. Jim, give me your thoughts. The headline, WWE star sent home from the road this weekend. WWE star Jeff Hardy was not at tonight's live event in Corpus Christi, Texas, at the American Bank Center, and word making the rounds at the event was that Hardy had been sent home from the road. For the record, this was dated December 5th, 11:03 p.m. at night, so a day and a half before we are recording right now.
Right.
Hardy teamed with Xavier Woods and Drew McIntyre against the Bloodline last night in Edinburgh, Texas, for the main event of that Super
Edinburgh?
Show. Edinburgh? I don't know the place.
Well, is it spelled the same way as the Edinburgh in Scotland?
Oh, I didn't even think of it that way. Edinburgh, Edinburgh,
Yeah.
Texas. Because when I think about Scottish towns, I think of Texas.
Well, when you think of the Garden of Eden, you think of Texas?
A good point. Hardy spent most of the match inside the ring being worked over by Roman Reigns and the Usos, and apparently becoming more sluggish as the match continues. Once he made a hot tag to McIntyre, Hardy disappears into the crowd, followed by security, and didn't return to the ring for the post-match celebration with his partners. Hardy was replaced in Corpus Christi tonight by Rey Mysterio. He was not backstage at the event. Hardy last wrestled on SmackDown TV on November 26th, teaming with Drew McIntyre to defeat Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss. PWInsider.com has reached out to WWE for comment, and will update this story if we hear back. So again, we don't know a terrible amount, but we do know that Jeff Hardy has reportedly been sent home, Jim.
Well, thanks for leading with this one. Because I don't want to hop on kick a downed horse or whatever you've got me so frazzled I can't form a cogent simile. But obviously this cannot be a positive thing. You have to look at what they're not saying. If he got his bell rung and was injured and was confused and just left the match to, as soon as he tagged out to go get medical attention, then he wouldn't have wandered off through the crowd as what was reported was the case, right? Or gone out into the crowd. If he'd had some kind of injury and been sent home because of that, they would have said that. I don't know if he was... the thing that everybody's trying not to say is, well, is Jeff off the wagon? But what else would be the cause of him being not all the quote was that he had a bad night, was a quote from somebody that I saw, and that he was sent home and replaced for the rest of the tour. What else is it going to be? That they won't say. If he was injured, they'd say it. If he was sick, they would say it. They wouldn't say it if it was COVID, but if it was COVID, he wouldn't have had the issue the previous night. I hope he's okay. I thought in large part that stuff was behind him. He's obviously had a couple of high-profile incidents. The match with Sting and TNA, etc., where shit was not right. I just, I hate that, because we said on the pay-per-view, it's already, to me, it just looks like that when he goes out there, he knows he has to do the trademark shit, and it looks like it's beating him the fuck up to do it. And I'm afraid that, and I don't know his personal situation, and I'm not trying to speculate, But I'm afraid that now, at this stage of his life, is it more that he may be medicating some of his chronic injuries than just trying to go out and be a party guy? You know, that I don't know, but
We don't know, but if it is any of the things that people are suspecting, doesn't it make it really all that more tasteless, the stuff WWE was doing? What was it, earlier this year, last year, where he had fallen off the wagon and they made it again? He hadn't really done it, they just made it as part of the SmackDown show that Jeff Hardy was having issues.
well, and that's always that is fucking rotten. Whether it's Jeff or whether it was Shitstain did it with Hawk 20 years ago, or whatever the case, or that was part of, you know, Heyman bringing Sunny on ECW television to talk about her issues. Real life into wrestling in a positive way, that people know things are true so that you can wind it into the story you're telling. But I've never seen an upside in any way, shape, or form in any of the times that anybody substance abuse problem, or shot on having a substance abuse problem, or working, referring to a huge substance abuse problem, any of it. No, it's not good. And I don't know why they keep doing it, and especially for the talent, it has to be embarrassing. But also, it doesn't make the company, the talent, the TV show, anybody look any good, in my opinion. To do that and to play on those things. It's cheap TMZ bullshit for the, you know, warped people that sit and watch TMZ bullshit. What such and such star said at the airport, and what such and such star did at this party, and so was drunk and flashed her pussy, and watch a documentary every once in a while, you fucking ignorant pricks.
Yeah, but the 86 men.
Yeah!
You gotta watch that.
So, well, I'm about to have free time over the holidays, now the new orders are almost out.
You like the characters. Remind you of wrestling.
Only a question about Jeff Hardy can get us to the 86 Mets documentary.
Anything can get us to the 86 Mets documentary. Once upon a time in Queens. Anything can get us to the 86 Mets, period.
Who are you gonna call? Buster! Nice work, Avengers. This won't be the last time we mount an assault on AIM's forces, but this should significantly weaken their capabilities.
Oh, come on. Enjoy Patrick. Eh. We don't think. Yeah.